Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Tom Slivick, and I'm with Rick Sanders. How you doing, Rick?
Tom, I'm doing great.
Okay. Well, you're probably not doing as great as you were the day before. You had some cows rustled away, right?
Yeah.
Oh, haven't heard of any cow rustling in a long time myself.
The sheriff says that maybe every other year or once a year or something like that, somebody misses some cows, but this is kind of an unusual deal. So
it is, because you have an unusual, unusual herd. They're smaller cows, and we're going to find out probably a lot about the breed. I believe they're mini highland cattle.
Right.
Is that what you call it? Okay, we'll find out more about that after we go into the cow rustling story, because Rick's trying to get these cows back, right?
Right. We'd love to have them back, and we're putting out posters. We put them out to the livestock yards, and now we're going to hit the feed stores and so on. They're unusual, and they're highland cattle. Some people call them Scotch Highlanders. They're very long hair. Then they have big horns that some people are afraid of, and so on. They are very beautiful. They come in 6 official colors, and you'll see some photos here later on.
Okay, I think we have, maybe Alan could put up like the first photo so we can get an idea of what they look like. We'll continue on with the story about how they got stolen before we get into the breed.
Okay.
Do you see that
right.
picture there? Okay.
Right.
So that behind them is it's kind of hard since they're sitting down to see that. What's on the next slide?
Okay. That requires a little bit of explanation. Highland cattle were painted frequently in the 1890s.
Well, you get an idea of what the Highland cattle look like. We're going to go back. And Rick, when did you notice the cows were stolen?
Early August, and they could have been stolen in 1 or 2 trips. I'm not sure which, but the sad part was we went down to the corral and there was a dead animal there. And we don't keep them in the corrals. So this is on the lower part of our property on Quartz Mountain Road. And turns out there was 2 dead animals there. One was an older cow, and one was a steer. They elected not to take those. They left them in the corrals, and we're not there every day. And they died during that 100-degree heat of dehydration.
They weren't able to get water?
Right.
Okay. Now, how many's in your herd?
We had as many as 70, but this year we've been very successful in selling Highland cattle, and we were down to about 45, so now we're down to 35.
Okay. Now, how many head were taken?
There were 8 taken, and 2 died.
And the 2 that died.
Right.
Do you have any? When the sheriff's people came on out and everything, were they able to gather any evidence, tire tracks?
Not really. It's tough to get evidence, and it's a real dry environment out there, and the oily fingerprints kind of dry up. I guess, I don't know.
Okay, so I guess the best way then to find out who might be the perpetrators of this crime would be having someone report some unusual activity, right? That might give the sheriff's department some clues or leads.
Well, the pictures you're seeing of Highland cattle, they're really distinctive, and that's what we hope that people will see. There's very few people that have Highland cattle in California, and only about 5 of us that have miniature Highland cattle.
Okay, now
so
do you think they
unusual.
were probably taken? I mean, it's surely speculative on your part, but as you refer to them most of the time, I think you call them like
pasture ornaments.
Pasture ornaments, yeah, and but they are good for meat. So, do you think they were stolen for meat, or
they could have been? It could have been somebody that wanted it for their, family or whatever. For like instead of killing deer, they kill something like this, so they get a lot more meat, I guess. It could have been somebody who thinks they can resell them, and but the life, I don't think they can resell them. So
okay, because are you one of the few places where people can get Highland cattle?
Miniature Highland cattle. I'm kind of the source in the United States. This is something that my wife and I have been doing over 20 years to create this breed back the way it used to be, say in the late 1700s, early 1800s, when they were really small, very nimble, and they could forage off of virtually nothing. They really are. They're more like a goat in terms of what they eat. Incredibly hardy.
Yeah, I guess Scotland's not too well known for its pasture land.
No,
right?
Scotland is. It's up there in the North Sea, and it's really rough on them. And they were in the Highlands, and also the cattle in the Outer Hebrides Islands, which is on the western side of Scotland. And windswept is the word there. And these animals. My wife and I were there visiting one time. We had a camper and woke up in the morning and we were on the beach and there's about 12 of them out there eating kelp. It's amazing what they will eat, and they thrive.
I think that's about the only thing I've ever heard of eating kelp other than humans when they make it into something.
Right. Oh, they'd love it. We just couldn't believe it. We just cracked up. It was just delightful to see how hardy they are.
Wow.
And,
Okay, well that's what do they eat something special? I mean, as far as like as feed or?
But the worst hay you can give
Sure,
them.
you don't feed them kelp, do you?
No, we don't give them alfalfa because it's just too
good for 'em?
It's too good for them, and we usually give them a cow hay or less. We supplement them with the supplemental blocks and tubs so they get enough protein. And but other than that, it's whatever they can pick up at the ranch. And
So-
go ahead.
Okay, so these are like pets for you too.
Yeah, well, they're a business to me. I really have a high regard and respect for them, but I'm not, I don't kiss them or things like that.
Okay.
A lot of people I sell to do. They love them, and they love them as they're just, it's
As being
everything.
a smaller animal, they're a lot cuter.
They're a heck of a lot
And,
cuter.
and
They're the cutest cow around.
I know. I've seen them before. They look like they belong in The Hobbit or something
Right?
like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, with miniature horses and small people.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, how about you want to let people know where to contact or how to get a hold of you? You got
Sure.
to help find the cows.
Then we might have a slide of our poster, but I'll just tell you, if you see any highland cattle that you haven't seen before, especially if they're small, my phone number is 209-245-6973. And we'll have posters up in the feed stores and so on, so you can take a little tear off there. Just let me know where you've seen them, and we'll follow up.
Okay, and I'm sure they can get a hold of the sheriff's department as well. It's
Sheriff's
probably
office, there's a case number on it, and so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, what did they? We've just got about 20 seconds or so. Let's see. What should we say? Why don't you give your phone number once again?
Okay, sure. It's 209-245-6973.
All right. Okay. And we'll be going to a break, and after the break, we'll be coming back. We'll be talking about the breed and talking about the breed. It's a very unusual and a wonderful breed. So I'm Tom Slivick. Stay with us for the other side of the break. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN. Here I am. I'm back with Rick Sanders, and I'm Tom Slivick, and we're talking about Scottish Highland mini cattle. And Rick had about 8 heads stolen from his herd, and he'd like to get them back. And they're a unique breed.
Totally
so we're going to talk about the breed, and go ahead, Rick. Tell us something about the breed.
Well, if this is the one we're talking, this slide here is they were very popular to paint between 1880 and 1920. There's tons of paintings and oils and prints from that area because they're so highly regarded. As a matter of fact, you'll see Balmoral Castle in here pretty soon, and you'll see cattle out in front of it. That's the Queen's herd she's had for 50 years.
Okay, now
60 years.
Were they also Scotland, England, and stuff? Did they make it into Europe? Continental.
Mostly recently they have. They've been in the United States. In the late 1800s, but mostly since the 1949, 48. And this is one of the painters that was out there, and some cows attacked his easel.
Oh, there you go.
That's a canvas hanging off its horn. They're really not very aggressive.
He was mad because it was a small painting.
Right. The guy did a lousy job. And this is ferrying the cattle to the mainland. These are all steers, and I just love it because it shows so many different things. The dogs, they're working with the dogs. They're in their defensive posture. One of them doesn't even care. It's getting a sip. Another one's looking at the other ferry full of cattle going over the mainland. And that's what they did. They drove them from the islands to the mainland, and then they drive them all the way to London.
Okay, in case people didn't hear earlier, you were telling us about what a hardy animal it was. First of all, from Scotland, and Scotland doesn't have a whole lot of rangeland, but
Right.
Tell us once again how hardy they are.
Well, they're just tough as nails. They eat like a goat. They'll eat a lot more than what normal cattle eat. They have a thicker skin. They put on a heck of a coat in the wintertime, a fur coat. It's depending on what the climate's like. If it's around here, they don't put on as much of a coat.
Okay.
But they're just tough as nails. They're real lean. They're real bony. But they don't require a lot of fat.
They don't look like it in the pictures. They must have all their fur up.
Well, yeah, but you can see usually in their hindquarters.
Okay.
Now, this is a part of the Royal Show they had once a year. This is back in the 1800s, and you can see those are standard size Highlands there, and those are pretty big ones. But you can see the class of people that were involved in this, and they still are. Lynn and I were lucky enough to show in Scotland with a breeder that we met there. It was really exciting. to be able to show cattle with them.
Okay.
And these guys are out in front of a cottage. They're in a defensive posture. All the females, you can't see the fourth one very well, but there's 4 females faced out, and the babies are going into the middle, and that's how they take care of them when they encounter something they're not sure of. And
okay, so females and the males both have the long horns?
They all have horns, yeah,
okay.
yeah. And that's a bull we had, Armando, and his semen has gone over to Australia, and we in turn got some semen from a bull there named McTavish. And New Zealand is the only other place that's got mini highland cattle.
Okay, but what's his height?
He was about 38 inches at the back hip, so he
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Balmoral Castle. Like I said, they have about 30 breeding females, and that's the Queen's Castle in Scotland.
Okay.
That's one I had. His name was Button. It was one of the first really successful ones I had that was extremely small. It's just barely a yearling, and that's a number of years ago at our farm up in
Okay,
Portland.
so that picture really gives you a good sense of size.
Right. They'll be bigger than that.
Little
typically.
kids love
That's
these things. I know when we were out in Fiddletown a couple years back, you had some out there at the jam, and kids would just love petting them. I mean, these are definitely a petting.
Well, they don't like necessarily if they've been tamed a lot, they'll let you pet them, but you got to be careful about that. They're not aggressive. They are not aggressive, but if they feel threatened,
they are defensive.
Yeah, they'll be defensive.
Okay.
And none of the ones we have today do we handle. And this is, I think, Louis Bosworth Hurt, who was a famous artist about that time. It's his rendition. We have about 7 oil paintings and hundreds of other.
Lighting's beautiful.
The Highlands are incredible, and they really do look like that too. The Highlands and even parts of the lowlands where you're sitting there in the upswept the mountains is just amazing in Scotland.
Okay. And
that's kind of a typical bull. We like them blocky like that. The bull's horns tend to go forward so they can fight, and the cow's horns tend to go up, and that's so they can flip coyotes and so on.
Now, do the bulls, do they have the same thing happen here, like every 6 months or so? In other words, like the steers are sold for meat.
Mm-hmm.
And was that the same thing with the Highland
cattle? Not ours.
Keep the females for breeding? And
right. On our ranch, we eat the tall ones, and that's kind of the joke, but it's true. But this is an interesting slide. This shows back when they had subsistence animals. You can see in the back of that garage, if you will, there's a small cow. Cows couldn't be that big then. They lived with you. So the smaller cows were of the order of the day. Plus, everybody was smaller then.
Okay.
Had to do with the nutrition.
You milk them as well?
You can milk them. You can spin them. You can, you get the meat. You get there's like 5 different ways you can use them, and they were just a all-around subsistence animal.
Okay.
This one was named Davis. It's not a very good picture of him, but you'll see a couple more pictures of him. He was really gorgeous. We sold him to a woman in Idaho. There he is as a mature animal. She actually put a saddle on him. I don't know if they rode him or not, but she'd take him around to rodeos, and the cowboys just love having their picture taken with him.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is Davis when he was shipping out. You can see how small he is. He's the shorter of the two. The other one's Arika, and she was, believe it or not, she was pregnant at the time. And so Lady got 3 cows out of that. That's a typical Highland picture. That's not one of mine, but that's kind of what people love to see about them. That's what they look like when they're kind of furred out. And this is one of my favorites. I was given this by a friend, and they're curious animals. I'm going to tell you that they're highly intelligent. Their intelligence is different than ours, and I just have the utmost respect for them. And they'll come across something and they'll study it.
Pretty curious about that crow now.
Right? They've seen crows before, but not in that context.
In a field? Is that snow?
That's snow.
Okay.
They love the cold.
Okay.
They absolutely love the cold. And this is one of our cow-calf pairs. We're kind of being stared at by that cow. She's saying, I got my baby here,
All right.
So she's being cautious, and this is one of our calves.
Oh,
our calves are incredibly cute. I think they were used as a model for Ewoks. That gives you an idea what their hide and their fur looks like. That's their outer guard hair, and the water, it helps the water run off, and that's why they don't need so much fat. They've got the fur, and this is just around their ear. You can see but the spinning fur is actually on their belly.
So you use the fur for spinning as well?
You can. I don't. If I were to spin, I
would guess in
would.
the Middle Ages that was
sure.
done, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the Middle Ages, they weren't introduced into the continental Europe, or?
Well, I suppose they were. There really weren't purebred breeds. They were just
necessarily the
cattle
meat.
around in those days. But for the Highlands, they really worked out well, and just all around in the North Sea area because they could handle the rough weather.
Okay, we want to give you a phone number once again where people can contact you if they have any ideas of who might have taken Rick's cows.
Okay, yeah. It's 209-245-6973.
Okay, and of course you can call the Sheriff's Department as well. It is a crime. We lost 8 of them, and 2 were 2 just lost their lives. And stay with us. There's more news on the other side of the break.
You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.